Hey, I'm Jeff, and I make music with my brother.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and I also make music with my brother.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack, and we make music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. Jeff, we're sitting here in my lounge room recording an audio-only podcast because it's...
Good Friday.
It is.
It's a great Friday, actually.
It is a great Friday. We went out last night, celebrated on a Thursday night. We went to Roller, which for those of you who don't know is a bi-yearly drum and bass night that's been going on in Perth for the last 20 years maybe?
Maybe longer than 20 years. And the reason it's now bi-yearly is because the promoters, which are a group of about 5-6 guys, just that's the only time they run it. But it used to be weekly.
Yeah. On a Thursday night.
Thursday night at the Rosemount, which is a iconic venue. And it's always everyone turns up for Roller. If you haven't been to a drum and bass show in ages, you still go to a Roller.
You can go to Roller by yourself and you'll find someone you know. Like I said to Dart last night, Dart's one of the promoters of it and a Perth famous drum and bass leader, community leader. I said, you guys have to keep doing it because it's such a it's the one night a year where the whole drum and bass community really comes together and it feels the most like community vibe. It's not just a gig. It's like...
It's also where a lot of people got their start. Like, Keto won a DJ competition there years and years ago.
Yeah.
We've played there. Carl's played there. Fetz's played there.
Yeah, like headlining Rollers, like a
moment.
A moment where you come when you're coming up in Perth. And it was really fun. Watched Fendi play, or Mannequin.
Mannequin played, smashed it. Our friend Yataman played. He hasn't played a drum bass set in a long time, actually. Yeah. He plays more like soul, funk, like South American kind of beatsy stuff at other venues. Yeah. And he really dug deep and got into it. I actually want to ask him what a few tunes are. They sounded sick. But it was it was a vibe.
It was a vibe. Oh, that hasn't happened for a while.
Turn your phone off.
Sorry, good listener. Yeah, and then today, no studio. Oh, we've done some work at...
I've actually worked on something.
Our houses? Oh, really?
Yeah, I set the BPM to 134 and found a sample I like and kind of treated my laptop a bit more like an MPC rather than a sequencer.
Oh, so starting to hit the buttons and really mash it about.
Hit the buttons, but also just like work in like sequential loops.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like less like I can edit things however I want. It's like you edit on the fly and then try and like write it in, or you like just keep looping a section and be like, what's the grooviest version of this?
So for those who don't know, in Ableton there's two views. You've got your sequencer session view, which is when you arrange the song out, and then there's the live view.
I'm not using the live view.
Okay, cool. Well, there's a live view where you can loop and stop and start samples you're using and write in, and it becomes a bit more freeform. Early on in our Ableton careers, I remember you would often write in the live view more than me. Like I would tend to write in sequence view, but you would, stop and start samples, and that's how you collated ideas. I was wondering if you'd gone back to that, but no, you're using the sequencer view still.
Yeah, and just like taking, again, like back to what we were talking about the other week, like making moves that I might not otherwise do. Like I made like this like wild bass sound, then I was like, what's that sound through a guitar rig? And like, I really like how that crunches. Like that's cool, that's the sound. And also just like working at a different tempo, you get a different sense of space.
Because things are happening, especially when you're working at a slower tempo, things are happening on a longer timeline.
But it's breakbeat 134.
Vibes.
Yeah. And my kind of idea is that it might like make a demo-ish sounding thing and then remix it, kind of, so it's like a remix. And so it's like then turn that into 174. You're hearing it here first. If a song eventuates from this, we'll remember that this is the moment that it was born.
I've got to listen to your song starter ideas that you sent.
You still haven't listened to them?
No.
You disrespect the things I send you.
No, I don't.
You just showed me like 4 cat videos.
Yeah, but they were
watched
sent.
all of them, and you haven't listened to the music.
They were sent to me
yesterday.
They were sent to me.
Go on.
It's like right there. I want to sit down with the song starter things. I can't just casually listen to them.
But they're like 30 seconds.
Well, I'll listen to them after the podcast.
And I'll watch you listen to them.
Fantastic. I sent you a demo of something yesterday too.
And I listened to it straight away, and I gave you comments.
Look at that.
Professional.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I really like where that's going. And I'm feeling invigorated by music, which is a great place to be. And also working on it in shorter bursts. I also cleared a bunch of stuff off the desk at home. So I'm back working in that room.
I think that getting that space usable is really going to be integral.
Yeah, I really like that room. As like it's just a nice vibe. And you look out the window and there's like ferns and all sorts of stuff.
Something I don't have here yet, as in my house, is a space to work comfortably. When I've worked on music, I've just been sitting in my bed.
Yeah, bed.
And I don't want to do that.
No, you should get a desk.
Yeah, I've got a piece of wood primed to be a desk. In fact, maybe after the podcast, Jeff, you can help me maneuver around my room and find a space that could be desk worthy, and then I can just go buy legs for it this weekend.
Metal legs?
Or maybe wood legs. I like to keep everything wood.
Yeah. Yes, I can help you with that. Getting a space is important, and also a space that you can sit at and vibe at, and
for 2 or 3 hours,
and also like leave a bit. Like a bed. I've written ideas in bed.
But you're not doing any good work.
No, I always used to think when I was at uni, my posture, if my posture was shit and I was half sitting on the chair and I was like, it's like the work I did when I was sitting properly in a well lit and like well laid out desk, not necessarily clean, but like when I'm sitting properly, the work I did then was better than when I was like sitting half on my seat or like, crammed up against something.
Yeah. It's kind of a similar...
it's like set and setting for taking psychedelics.
Sure. I always thought, again, early on in our production career, we used to just roll into the studio wearing like pajamas, and like not shower, just like fucking rolling in when we were living together. And then we started putting on shoes. I think we heard somewhere that if you get up and put on shoes to go to work, it feels more like you're going somewhere with purpose.
Oh, you're just getting ready rather than like getting up and like not showering and stuff. Like get up, eat your food, and then like do those things, then go to work rather than you just get so excited though. You just wanted to
start writing,
start making music.
Yeah. I can't believe some people that are like, some people I know that study with the TV on, or while they're watching TV on a couch, similarly lounging how you're lounging, and they'll be like reading a textbook and kind of half watching TV. I'm like, how are you actually ingesting any of that information? It's reasonably common that some, I think that might be doubly redundant if I say it's reasonably common for some, but it's common that people like to work on creative things with something else going in the background. I used to know an illustrator that would put on movies, and I know people that do a lot of work that I wouldn't be able to concentrate on if I had something else going, but they've got like a movie playing in the background and they're like half watching it and half not. They're just like, it doesn't matter. I kind of like silence. Yeah. Or like piano music. I can understand when you're doing a creative task to have like an interesting movie on in the background, or, you could draw and you could watch something. That makes sense, but not ingesting in like a psychology book.
Yeah, no,
and taking notes, but also at the same time watching Dawson's Creek or something.
yeah, that sounds like a shit idea anyway.
But I'm the same as you. When I was studying my celebrant course a couple of years ago, I really got into just listening to classical music, modern classical music, and found it so relaxing and focusing. I think I spent a couple of days in the library in Perth, the new library that's this beautiful wooden building. It's got a really interesting design.
A wooden building.
Yeah, it's on. It's next to the new hotel with the rooftop. Remember we went for a drink with Rob on the same street as Amber, I believe. It's like the new, kind of near Print Hall and those restaurants. And
That's in kind of different spots. Either way, where it is doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you went to a library.
so there's a library there, and it's a circular building.
Mm-hmm.
On the outside, there's like wood paneling
Ah,
that's off the window. And
okay.
it kind of goes down in it almost looks like a dress or a fringe of a person. And inside's really beautiful. It's quite new, built in the last 6 or 7 years, I assume. But being in there and studying around other people that are studying kind of puts you in the mood to knuckle down.
Yeah, it's the same concept about like working in a cafe. It's like there's so much noise going on elsewhere that you focus on what you're doing.
Mm.
I wrote a tune in a cafe. We actually did that a bunch. Working on honing the album.
Yeah,
We're working. Shout out to what's the cafe called?
Root,
Root. Yeah,
near the AEI office.
yeah, and I also worked in the one near what's it called? London Fields. Yeah, vibes. But typically I like quiet. I remember there's a story about a young guy who went and started working as an animator at Disney, and he was working. His desk was right next to a famous a guy who's like name you may even recognize. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he's like an iconic Disney illustrator and animator. And the new guy came in and he said, "Do you mind if I play classical music?" And the guy went absolutely bloody nuts. He's like, "What makes you so like?" The young guy goes, I heard somewhere that having classical music while you work is like good for brainwaves or something." And the guy's like, basically, the old dude goes, what makes you so special that you think you could work better, that you deserve that like sounds and whatever to work with?
So the old guy doesn't
Old guy doesn't
want
music.
classical
Like, you
music
can
and
clearly
is pissed
tell
off
I'm
at,
fucking hungover,
and is pissed off at the younger guy.
Yeah, he's pissed off at the younger guy. He's like, "What makes you so special that you would play music?" And he goes, "We're barely doing our job as it is. Like, let's work in silence." You know what? I've misremembered this story and I don't have an ending for it. Feel free to edit this out or leave it in because it doesn't make sense. But the gist of the story is like, this old guy was like, we don't need anything else.
Yeah, like this job is already fun enough.
Not
or
fun
like,
enough.
Or like this is enough.
Yeah, like don't waste any energy listening. Use all that energy creatively.
That reminds me of
I hope your story is better than mine.
a video I saw the other day.
Was it at the library that was wooden?
The wooden library. Yeah, you looked at me when I was saying that as if I was making up that there was a fucking library.
When you said the wooden building, I was like, where is this shanty?
A crab shack. I worked in a crab shack. There's the Japanese filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki. I can't remember. I don't know what Miyazaki's first name's.
Hiro, I think.
Hiro Miyazaki. But he owns a production house called Studio Ghibli, and he made Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Monaco, a bunch of really famous beautifully drawn Japanese anime films.
We're doing it again.
And back on Japan, and there's a video of his some younger animators there that start showing him some AI generated art. And it's like a big kind of meeting, there's 15 people around a table and they're presenting this AI driven art and saying like, we can, create these really surrealistic backgrounds and we'll be able to create characters. And he's kind of just looking at them in a very bland way. And then he asks like, so you want to use a robot to animate things and create characters? And they're like, yes, sir. Because obviously that's very respectful. And he's like, I can't think of anything more anti-human and anti-art than what you're suggesting. And actually this makes me really sad. It makes me really angry. And I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
and then he's like, it cuts to him being like, I think this is the end of the world. Yeah. And I'm sure he means more so like it's the end of something.
Well, you look at any of those, I think all of those movies have hand painted backgrounds.
Yeah.
And all of the, they work very much in that old Disney kind of fashion. Like, make the food, put the food on the table, then photograph the food and draw the food.
Yeah.
And draw the characters. Like, get someone in to walk. You're doing that old school animation stuff. As in, how does the person walk? Like, you're walking, you record yourself walking. And you go, oh, if I put a bit of a limp, I shift my weight like this. It's real.
Yeah.
And then when you translate that to 24 frames a second, it's it's human to do.
And it's human. Right. It's human because a human drew it.
Mm.
There's that essence of spirit in the process.
Yes.
And I think, especially when it comes to AI in general, I saw on Instagram someone talking about how it's going to revolutionize music. There was an AI generated sample. So I'm sure there's just a big sample library and you have these parameters that are kind of use flowery language. So it's darker or lighter or harder or softer or
you're using adjectives to describe the settings you're looking for.
Yeah, and then then the AI mashes together samples to create new samples to give you something that fits with those parameters. And then it can also generate rhythms and that type of stuff, which is fine. It's almost like a sequencer, like an arpeggiator. But to use it as a tool is interesting, but then to have a fully automated or fully AI created piece of art, there is a certain amount of coldness, I think, to it. And even with the music, you can tell that there's something lacking. I saw on another Instagram clip 2 guys talking about clapping in time. And he was saying that when 2 people are clapping in time, the time, if you're doing it to a metronome, you don't clap in time with a third party beat. You're clapping in time with each other. And because you're clapping in time with each other and people aren't perfect, you're always slightly behind and you're kind of catching up with each other constantly. You're in time with each other, but it's obviously a what is it when 2 things are compared?
Comparison?
No. It's not scale. It's I can't remember the word. It doesn't matter. 2 people clapping in time, and it's the reason why live bands sound so human. It's because everyone's in time with each other, but the time is constantly fluctuating ever so slightly, you know.
Everyone's internal clock is a little bit.
Is personal to themselves.
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, I think in this example, he was saying that's why you should always record claps in music, live, whether that's in a band or whether it's an electronic act, to give it that humanness rather than just having a clap sample constantly there. It's the same reason why we don't, you know, sometimes we have samples or drum hits or bass sounds slightly off. They're not quantized, meaning they're not completely on time to the grid, because it adds some humanness to it.
It also adds like groove, and it's like things are pushing and pulling. They're kind of bouncing off each other rather than just all happening.
I think those are the type of, I guess I'll call it human essence or spirit, the things that translate to someone else's ears or eyes, that a person made that art, that a person made that thing. It's like someone's soul is in that transfer. I think that subconscious transfer that happens when you ingest art in any form is, I don't know, it's what makes things so special. I think
Some of what you're
what makes it so special
explaining is kind of the difference between computer generated special effects and models.
Yeah, there's something about the human brain that accepts a miniature, for instance, more so than a really great computer generated version of said miniature, just because it's a physical thing. You believe it to be there, so your brain accepts it.
Yeah, it's like old school matte paintings. If you don't know what a matte painting is, just Google what a matte painting is, because the original ones were painted on glass, and then they'd put the film behind it, and then so it's like you're painting extending backgrounds and like.
Well, what they do is they would film. Let's use the example, because we've both recently watched it, of Star Wars. There's a scene in Star Wars, I think the first one or maybe the last one, as in Return of the Jedi, the original series, where Darth Vader's getting off a ship, and it's a wide shot of the ship. It's in the bay, and there's lots of stormtroopers on either side, and that's a matte painting. And there's, I think, 4 people moving in the shot, in the wide shot, and it's 4 little figures down in the bottom right corner. And so what they do is they shoot the 4 little figures on a black background, and then at kind of any size, the camera's probably pretty far back, and then they paint everything else in the frame on a big sheet of glass, and then they shoot again the piece of glass and project the film of the other people that were walking up on that little black space down the bottom.
Yeah.
And what they're shooting with the camera in the front, that's what the end frame is.
Yeah, and if you look at some of those old matte paintings, particularly ones from Star Wars, they are quite rough and painterly.
Yeah.
Like if you stare too long at them, you're like, that's definitely been painted. But when you're not looking at the, you're looking at the whole scene and looking at the characters moving, it actually appears more human than some of the, at least earlier digital ones. But
it's I mean, it's similar to even in paintings, like paintings from afar, they look so detailed and they look so, especially trees, and you're like, whoa, how did someone like paint a tree that well? And then you go right up close to it, and it's all just blotches of variety of colors, and it's messy, and it's, you know, it's rough.
that's life is. There's very few sharp black lines in life.
That's very true. I mean, while we're talking about it, there's a ILM documentary on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus and like behind the scenes and like movies and like special effects, there's a wicked ILM documentary.
It's called Light and Magic, and and it's a really great look at how influential in the special effects and post-production stuff that this company was, that was originally created to help George Lucas realize Star Wars. I love how pissed off George Lucas is about Star Wars as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy how he swaps 1% of his 1% of his profit with Steven Spielberg as well. He's like, I'll give you a point on Close Encounters, and you give me a point on Star Wars.
Yeah. What a deal.
Like hedging their bets, basically. Like,
and
how well your movie goes.
And so George Lucas starts this company, Industrial Light and Magic, to handle all the effects on Star Wars, and then they do Close Encounters, and then they basically
become guns for hire.
Yeah,
while they're waiting for George Lucas to write the next Star Wars.
Yeah, and then they do all the Star Warses. They do basically
Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
E.T.
Goes up to Jurassic Park. They start doing computer graphics. That's where Pixar starts, and George Lucas actually sells Pixar to Steve Jobs. It's insane. It's like the birthplace of special effects to some extent.
Yeah, some of those guys like Ed Catmull, who's the guy who comes along with the early computer graphics dude.
Yeah.
He's written a book called Creativity Inc. I've heard him on a few podcasts. He's really very interesting guy.
But it's a wicked watch if you're that sort of way.
It also just encourages you to make. You realize that like we don't make much anymore. We don't solve problems by making. We solve problems by like outsourcing it.
Yeah.
And there is a satisfaction you get from making or tinkering or...
I thought I want to build... I mean, we've got that Lego to build.
We do. I thought of that the other day.
But I thought we drove past a model shop and I thought I wouldn't mind buying a model to build because I quite like scale, quite like miniatures. You know, there's the 2-scale miniature of my own room that I used to live in that I built. That was very satisfactory. Satisfying, sorry. There's something about, I don't know if you can hear that. Tactile about building something that's supposed to be big, but it's small.
Get into it. I'd be interested. I built models when I was a kid, and I'm not very dexterous with very small things.
Yeah, neither am I.
My fingers, and I wonder if it's something you can learn.
Definitely. I think you can learn everything. You can literally learn everything. You were saying to me the other day that you felt like you didn't know how to do this thing. And you felt a bit stupid because you didn't. And I said, you're not going to get that thing. You need to do that, repeat that 20 times in a row before it becomes like second nature. Because if you remember, again, when we started using Ableton, originally we were like, what the fuck is this? I'm never going to get this. And now we explain it to people and it's like second nature. You don't even think about it. Everything is like that. Be it a language, be it how to change a tire, be it how to measure and drill an air conditioning unit into a wall, engine installation on a car, whatever it is.
Yeah, and also YouTube's super helpful for some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, building and making things.
It also means you sit down and focus for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
At your desk that we're going to help you build.
Yeah, maybe it's a Lego desk.
What would you build model of?
I think what I'd like, the first thing that comes to mind is a ship, but not a steamship. I would like to build like a
galleon.
No, like a wooden ship from the
like San Diego.
No, not like a
not a very old wooden.
Not a very old wooden ship. Okay. Like a ship from the 1950s that a movie star would have had. So a sailing boat. It's a sailing boat, but it's quite big. It's got a white top on it. wooden sides, like a ship from the 50s. A sailing boat from the 50s.
A sailing boat?
Rock Hudson would have sailed on a boat like this.
To Cuba to get his dick sucked? By a man?
Like, yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I'd like to build.
I've got something in my head, but I'm also confused. You're calling it a ship. Is it more of a boat?
It's a boat, yeah, sorry. Not a ship.
Okay.
A boat. A sailing boat.
You could just cut out the middleman and just go straight to the Titanic.
Nah. Nah. I want wood at the moment.
So you wouldn't build it out of wood?
Yeah, I imagine there's some sort of ship building model that you can kind of get like wooden pieces for, and it's to scale, and you kind of glue it all together to possibly even be watertight at the end. This is a product that I'm completely unsure if it actually exists, but that would be cool. But if it's all balsa wood, that would be handy, so it's not super heavy. Therefore, it probably won't be watertight.
But you could just seal it. Dip the whole thing in candle wax.
Mm. I've always, there's that ship in Mum and Dad's house.
Yes.
I've always wanted to go inside that ship.
Yeah.
And the fact there's been, if I think about it, I've always wanted to go into smaller places. Like, remember when we were younger, when we were younger, Mum would rinse the spinach in the sink, and I would always fantasize about going real small and how cool it would be to like scuba dive around in the spinach, because it would be like layers of spinach and you could swim between them.
Yeah.
It's a very Magic School Bus-esque fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? They're always shrinking down, and she's taking those children into fancy places. And I loved the idea of like your garden suddenly becomes this forest.
Playing with scale is one of the simplest ways to just get a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
Isn't like, imagine you were like 1/10 the size, and then all of a sudden you go to Hyde Park. You're like, whoa, it's like this.
Be eaten by a bird so quickly.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Or imagine that a bird is 10 times the size, and there's a demon.
Yeah.
And so like all of a sudden you're completely switching the world around you on its head. But yeah, I kind of like this idea of models. I don't know. Watching this documentary has really made me move into kind of maker mode. I'm also having a lot of creative writing ideas.
That's good.
Yeah, I need to gonna put some of my ideas down. I write every day, but not creatively. I mean, it is creative and it is reflective, and it's not just diary.
But it's not your stories.
It's not my stories.
I really like that story idea you told me a couple of years ago. It must have been around the same time that you were reading the Cryptonomicon.
What was it?
About the pirate? Your pirate story?
Oh, the Pirate Queen.
The Pirate Queen.
Yeah. It's based on a podcast I listened to.
Yeah. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, it's sick.
It's
Did
sick.
you just say?
It's sick. It's a great idea. It's a great starter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a sourdough starter.
But yeah, I think it's good that you can get inspired by that documentary. I need to finish it. I think I've got 3 more episodes left.
Yeah, I've been like watching it in little snippets.
And then
it's just inspiring. It just makes you want to get a shed and just like have heaps of things and be like, I want to tinker.
You can.
And I'm not that guy yet, but I think in the future, I think Lego is a good place to start. We should build that Lego.
Man, we should build that Lego, and we should buy Rivendell eventually. But before Rivendell, we should buy that A-frame house.
Yes.
And actually rebuild it so it looks like the studio. Because I think that's sick.
Yeah.
There's like a A-frame cabin in Lego that you can buy that's almost exactly the same as the A-frame Airbnb we rented down south when we went and did the riding trip. And we thought it would be cool to like have that as a scale replica in our studio of something that we did. We need to build a Lego room in the studio now. Let's just start building Lego full time. Fuck this music shit. Let's just build Lego and put it on YouTube.
I reckon watching me build Lego on YouTube would be quite annoying. I'm looking for a blue 3. I'll use a grey.
His fingers keep slipping. What's going on? He's not particularly dexterous, is he?
Yes. Is he using glue? Yeah, I think maybe Lego with instructions could be fun, but then we should have a free time Lego. We could set up a camera, like a time lapse. It could be interesting.
Well, it's, we enjoyed playing with the kids when they were here, our nieces and nephews.
Yeah, they love Lego, and that like just anything goes, and you just all of a sudden coming up with crazier ideas as well.
You're using your imagination.
Yeah, it's a muscle, and it does. What's the word? When muscles get
atrophy.
It does atrophy. Atrophy is the word I'm looking for.
Had that one in the
pipe.
In the pipe, ready to go. I've been waiting to use that word for ages.
My brain has atrophied. Alcohol. What a concept.
It's a poison. I wanted to... have you got a
just
point to make on alcohol?
I reflected this morning. I think I'm moving towards drinking a lot more mindfully. And I think I have been over the last maybe 18 months anyway. But yeah, because you've said it countless times. The best time when you're drinking is like 3 beers in or 3 drinks in, and you're like loose and it's fun. And then you kind of hit like 6 or something, and you kind of start to, if you're mindful of it, you do start to become like less coherent.
Well,
and words get more slippery and stuff, and you really have to focus. And it's easy to get, out of control, as in like, I like losing control. Because you're not out of control as in you're going crazy and smashing up the kebab spot, but out of control as in like, whatever, I'll do whatever. But there's like kind of like, it's a nice thing to just be relaxed and find a cool spot where you like inhibitions are a bit down, but you're not like forgetting what you just said.
Yeah, you want to be not feeling anxious, inhibitions down, a bit more confident.
Maybe slightly erect.
And relaxed. Not, yeah, man, do you remember? Like, you don't want to be like talking around at people and slurring about, which I mean, like, I don't, especially last night, I definitely didn't feel like that. But how I felt last night was tired. I think I had, half a bottle of wine and 3 beers. But I could have easily gone home at 10:30.
You told me you were going to leave.
I did. But then, because I thought...
And then I left before you.
Because I thought Yessa was playing at 11:30. And then I saw that it was 10:30. I was like, okay, I can wait and watch Yessa play. Because I haven't seen him play in ages. And I always feel bad. Because it feels like I'm always leaving Yessa. I told him that last night.
Wow.
I was like...
Devotional here on the podcast.
No, I just always feel like I'm leaving. Or like... I'm seeing him on the way somewhere.
He's
or
like you though. He loves a hang, and he doesn't. And he doesn't. Neither of you know how to say enough is enough. If you're hanging out, neither of you say I'm gonna leave now. It's like
I know.
I'm gonna go. No, I'm gonna hang out for another 45 minutes.
Yeah. I just love hanging out.
I walked home through the park a little bit, and when the sprinklers are on at night, it's looking at them, you're like, I'll never be able to get through that area, but it was quite calming to just time a stroll, like never breaking stride, just striding, strolling, gliding, glimpsing through the through the sprinklers as they rotated around, and I just like timed it.
That's a beautiful dance with nature.
And robotic irrigation systems.
Well, yeah, I guess more so, maybe not nature, more so like the pace of the world. I don't know what you'd call that.
There's some sort of poetic beauty to it. You were going to say something before I started talking about alcohol. And I'm
Yeah,
not sure I made a point there.
I was going to ask, do you think a hand job should be part of a massage automatically? Which is not particularly poetic. But I was having this discussion with someone at work the other day.
Go on.
Well, like, it's not, and this goes for women as well,
I was going to say, it sounds kind of sexist.
men and women, everyone on the gender spectrum. Should an orgasm be the end to a massage? And it shouldn't be such a like hidden thing that older men go do at another at some random place.
I don't think it should be a hidden thing. No, not at all. If you want to get jacked in the shack, you get jacked in the shack. But it doesn't necessarily have to be part of it. What if it was at the start?
Nah.
Yeah, like imagine you like
Oh, so that's like the relaxation.
yeah, so you got like 5 minutes of touching, and then you got the jack, and then you got the e-jack, and then
Yeah.
you got 43 minutes of soft touching.
Yeah, that might work. I think it's like if someone's just making your whole body feel good, I think why not make everything feel good? I mean, I started thinking about it because one of my friends, who was a woman, had an orgasm while she was getting massaged the other week. And
Shout out to Penelope.
and I think it was like an unsuspecting thing, and I don't even think the girl was
Did she get touched down there, or was she just
No.
being rubbed on
just rubbed. Just rubbed. It was a non physical stimulation orgasm.
The clit wasn't hit.
The clit wasn't hit. That's a good t-shirt. Yeah, and I mean, it just made me think like it is such a sensual thing to do with a random person that you're paying, but it should be part of it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go in knowing what you're going to get, then that's what you're buying, and it is part of it. It's when it's like a sneaky added bonus or something that, you know, it would be unsuspected. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. What I think, you know, back to the massage parlor thing, is worldwide there seems to be a language that all massage parlors speak. And there's certain ones that you look at and you're like, that's a place where you could get jacked off, and that's a place that I'm going to because I have sore muscles.
I think the signifier for that is a cheap fluorescent sign that says open.
And it's open at suspicious hours. Like, why is that sports massage place open at 10:15 at night on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
I don't think you can. I think it would be quite rude to expect some sort of pleasure at a reputable establishment.
But is that only a branding thing? What if you were branded reputably, but you offered the extra bonuses?
I mean, it's probably out there. I'm sure there's like a sports massage or remedial massage place that you can be like, give me a hand job. Let's do it. Or maybe more. Who knows?
Is the muscles in your cock tight? Because we can just rub that straight out.
I also think that, you know, while it might be for men and women, men are more inclined to be given a hand job by a random stranger, whereas women would be like,
Yeah,
it's a bit more finicky to make me come.
Finicky.
Random. And probably not as interested in being like...
It's being entered versus not being entered. Like,
Yeah.
To enter a woman to make them come is a little bit more private rather than just like fondle the thing that's hanging out already.
I've always said, on a long enough time scale, a guy will come if anyone is touching his dick.
Friction.
In any friction on and a long enough time scale, a monkey could beat me off. even if you weren't sexually aroused. It's such a mechanical situation. It's basically like a...
Would you accept a hand job from a monkey?
No, because I reckon you wouldn't be able to control how much he gripped it.
Oh, he would. Yeah, that's
He'd
the difference.
fucking rip it off.
That's
If you gave your penis to a monkey, it would rip that thing off and fucking throw it at the wall and then probably eat you. I would never let a monkey touch my dick. Their hands would also be very rough. I think their hands would probably feel like the bottom of my feet, and I like someone's feet that walks the earth with no shoes. Is that fucking grabbing your dick? I'd quite like to be sitting next to a monkey though, and if it like
started
kind of
making the move.
making moves, I'd feel honoured, and maybe a bit.
But what happens when you like kind of say no, Bobo?
Yeah, fucking.
You would go
Again,
mental.
if it wants it, if it wants the item, and it cannot have the item, then it's going to go mad. I'd love to be able to trust a monkey. I really would.
They're terrible with money, man. You can't.
That's a bad investment. It's a bad investment, chimp.
I started a business in 2007. I started a business with a primate, and it was all well and good. And then it turned out he was cooking the books, and the profits were not what they were expected to be. And he was paying me dividends from other people's money, and he actually took most of the money. It was only it was $25,000, and he took that and went back to the Congo.
He was a good guy, Terry. But it's surprising that he did that. I think of all the monkeys you could trust, apart from maybe a bonobo, because they're very peaceful.
Most trustworthy ape and most distrustworthy primate.
Most trustworthy?
Yeah.
An older orangutan. Possibly the one that's lived in Perth Zoo for the last 50 years. Like an older, shaggy guy. That's one of the guys with the wide face.
Oh.
Male or female, I think. I don't know if the chimpanzee, the orangutan, orangutans.
The man of the jungle.
Patriarchal, matriarchal. Most untrustworthy, a baboon. A baboon is basically like a dog person with fangs. And I'm not interested in ever being near one.
Man of the jungle.
That's what orangutan means in Indonesian?
It's not. It's like Holly knows this. Holly's yelling at the thing. Hey, Holly. Sorry, I say it all the time, and it's
I swear it's orangutan, man of the jungle.
orangutan.
Orangutan. But it's not Indonesian, Sumatran.
Yeah,
Like
it's like-
Jakarta. I don't know where orangutans.
Wow! Shout out to a hangover. It's a man of the bush. It's like the man of the bush. Yes, I agree. Most trustworthy. I would also. I think a gorilla has trustworthy traits.
Yeah.
It's a tough guy. You don't argue with it, but you believe it's going to give you solid return on your investment.
I believe a gorilla or an orangutan would love you if you were in trouble in its area. I feel like if you were small enough, maybe a child, and it found you, it would help you.
Apparently gorillas are quite peaceful. Fun fact, as well, they're ground-dwelling apes. They don't live in trees. They create nests.
Yeah.
I think...
They also lay their eggs in those nests. If you find a gorilla egg, watch out. Because the mother will be nearby.
I'm going to throw in untrustworthy primates, like a macaque, like a little, like screaming kind of
a little
guy.
parrot monkey kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like, although they're cute, I feel
Their
like
brains are too small.
they're untrustworthy. They're very focused on the shiny objects and shafting people.
I think a gibbon would be, or a spider monkey would be fun for a friend. I think a lemur would be quite trustworthy.
I don't think a lemur's a primate though. Might be a mammal.
Potentially not. They probably are a mammal. I remember when the first time I went to Vienna in 2008, I went to the Viennese Zoo, and there was a lemur cage, and they were all sleeping. And when they sleep, they just go into a big ball.
Whoa.
And it was just like this ball of lemurs against the wall. And like one would kind of come out and go off, and they'd like unraveled. And there was like 20 of them just mashed all together for warmth, for love. I do like seeing monkeys or like primates interact with other things. Like one of the videos I showed you before, when I really wasn't listening to your music, was a small chimp interacting with baby tigers.
Oh, I saw that
And
video.
to see like a chimpanzee pat and pet a tiger like a human would was quite cool.
Like scruff its little
Scruff its belly and then like rub into its neck.
Orang-hutan. It's not tang as well. It's orang-hutan, person of the forest, man of the forest.
Person of the forest.
There he is.
I reckon it would be so sick if you're... I think this is actually a Far Side comic where a chimp comes down and changes someone's tire in the jungle, and the guy's like, well, that was one helpful chimp. But like, I'd love to come across, I don't know, be in Indonesia or be in Sumatra or somewhere like that, and you'd come across a orangutan that had developed skills in a very human trait. Like, you know, the local mechanic in a small village was an orangutan, and he was really good with cars. And like, you know, he took on jobs and was like signaling, and basically I'd love it if primates developed alongside us a bit more and were using tools and interacting with us.
Story from let me just confirm this, but I'm just googling this. What was his name? There was a baboon who worked for the railroad in South Africa in the 1800s.
A baboon.
Yeah. His name was Jack. There was a signalman in the 1880s who bought a baboon at a market, and he taught the baboon how to change signals.
So the baboon was a signalman for railroad. That's a lot of responsibility
to put
on a baboon.
So he bought the baboon. He had lost both of his legs in a work accident.
The baboon or the guy that bought him?
The guy that bought the baboon, and the first thing he did was train the baboon to push him to and from work in a small trolley. Soon, the baboon was also helping with household chores, sweeping floors and taking out the trash, and occasionally jacking him off.
Really?
No. But the signal box is where Jack truly shined, Jack being the chimp. As trains approached the rail switches at the Unitage train station, they'd toot their whistle a specific number of times to alert the signalman which tracks to change. By watching his owner, Jack picked up the pattern and started tugging on the levers himself. Soon, the owner was able to kick back and relax as his furry helper did all the work.
I would not trust a baboon with that kind of responsibility.
And they he wore a hat and stuff.
Did he get paid?
The guy literally has 2 wooden legs. What a fucking era. The 1880s, they don't make them like that anymore. Yeah, so an ape signalman worked for 9 years like that. He basically earned long service leave. While his lazy wooden
legless owner sat by.
But legless owner gets points for ingenuity and inventiveness.
I mean, that's a bold move. It's a pretty fucking bold move. You know, when the first train's coming at you and Jack's sitting in the
hot
signal seat, and the guy's far enough away
that he can't.
that he can't reach it. He's like, I'm putting a lot of faith in you, Jack. I'm sure the train driver's like, is that a fucking baboon? Where's William?
How many hoots did you hear? 7. And just like cranks it off. The train just flies off the
For
track.
sure, there's got to be a correlating story with that. That's like during the 1880s on that train line, there were several missed deliveries because of bad signals. There's got to be some evidence that suggests that the baboon. I'm suggesting that the baboon didn't know the difference between the different signals, and that he was just changing shit for random.
You're saying that a baboon is not as potentially good as a human at his job, and I think that's discriminatory. I think a baboon would be perfectly set up to do that kind of job. He'd feel...
Was it a baboon or a chimp?
The baboon.
I mean, I just said that baboons were the most... Untrustworthy, but this proves that maybe they are the most trustworthy. How would you feel about getting in like a small propeller plane if an orangutan was flying? Or if they were the first mate? There was a pilot and he was like, I'm going to let George take over for a while. And he took the...
It's like fucking an episode of Tailspin
and
or something.
he took the wheels with both his feet.
And he was controlling contraptions with his hands. I'd say I might be on board.
I definitely wouldn't. I'd love to see it. I just love to interact with a.
And then when you come into you're like he takes off, all right, you're flying, you're like, this is crazy, you're taking photos. And then he comes into land and he just turns around and just goes and just like shrugs and takes his hands off the wheel, and he has no idea how to land the plane.
Can you imagine if you're in a plane with an orangutan as the pilot and everything's cool, he's checking things, it's all going well. He's acting, you believe that he's human, and then suddenly he switches just to being a wild animal and rips off his captain's hat and just starts attacking the pilot next to him. No matter how many clothes you put on an animal, it doesn't change the fact that it's wild. As much as I'd like to believe it, I would love to believe that Jack went home every day from his signalman job and joined the guys in the pub for a beer, and they all discuss the day. Or I'd love to think that an orangutan pilot is capable of ferrying cargo or people around in a plane. But
I believe that an orangutan could be taught to keep a level setting and stick to a bearing.
Actually, I've seen a dog fly a plane. There's a video of a dog keeping a level bearing. But again, I don't think the dog has any understanding of why it's doing a thing or what it is doing. It's just been taught to hold a wheel at a certain level. He doesn't understand that he's controlling the pitch of a plane.
Yeah, he doesn't know
he doesn't
yaw and it's going into a stall.
Can you imagine what a dog thinks when it gets on a plane? Let alone being sat in what seems to be the front, being in control of the plane.
I don't even think a dog understands what control of a plane means.
I don't think a dog understands what a plane is. I don't even think dogs understand what cars really are.
No way.
It's like a room that moves.
But the fact it's controlled by your friends, the people, is not connected.
No, maybe they do know. I don't know.
One day we'll know what they know, and I think we'll be richer for it. Maybe we'll have an animal on the podcast. Maybe we won't. Time will tell. Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure.
What did you learn this week?
What did I learn this week?
That alcohol is poison? No, you learned something else.
Tell me what I learned.
How to your renovations.
Oh, yeah, just learning little handy bits around the house, I suppose, as we make some changes and renovations at our home. A little bit in the deck and things. I got maybe a tiny bit more confident with some tools. I made some choices. I scrubbed some things. I cleaned some brickwork. I think I'm going to go home and do some of that stuff now as well. The other thing I learned is that. No, let's stick with that. That's a good thing. I learned that. I learned that I want to make things.
Okay.
Make more. I get satisfaction about creating stuff with my hands.
I learned because I went and bought a new Duna cover or duvet cover that I had been a linen lover member at Adairs for the last 5 years, and I hadn't even known. So when I signed up to be a linen lover to get 20% off at any Adairs and take advantage of their bi-yearly sales, they already had my number. They already had my email. And she said, "You're already a linen lover, love." And I said, "You've got to be bloody joking." Change that email.
What was the email attached to it?
It was beardedelephant_69 at Hotmail.
I gave my email out the other day and I said to the woman when she asked, I was like, I should get an adult email. And then she laughed and I said, I'm not joking, lady.
I got an adult email. I think an adult email's
I'm still running with it. When I got invited to Gmail back in like 2001 or something. I'm still running the same email.
I'd hate to know how many emails are in that inbox.
A lot. Anyway, Jonathan.
I haven't. Well, no, that's what I learnt. Sorry. I thought that was a joke, but it wasn't.
You're in Adairs.
I'm an Adairs linen lover.
I'm going to go look at your linen. I'm going to go look at your desk. I'm looking at you. I love you. Let's chat again soon.
I love you too, buddy. See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on all social media. We've recently updated our YouTube. Go and give that a subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the latest video podcasts. And follow us on Spotify too so you can keep up to date with all our latest music releases. Big up.